Today we're at the Auto Innovation Centre where they have completely disassembled a brand new Toyota GR Yaris. So we're back here with Luke from Auto Innovation Centre. Now, number one question is, why would you pull a perfectly good working car apart?
Well, it's easier than pulling apart a not perfectly good working car that's old.
So how many kilometres are on this?
600, 500, something like that.
Yeah, and as you can see, it's completely stripped. The old 3 cylinders not too big, is it?
It's compact, it's a beautiful engine. It's a nice thing to look at. I mean, it's an example of absolute current technology. Yeah, it's nice to work on, and it's nice to see what they're doing these days. You know, mechanically injected, 3-cylinder, kind of big pots, integrated exhaust manifold, like it's all, yeah, it's a very nice thing to work on.
And you're saying here that it's sort of got like an integrated sump, yeah?
Yeah, so you can see the block kind of runs from here to here. Crank center line is through here. So this is effectively your sump, so the metal panel on the bottom and this bit of aluminium. So it's obviously a stressed member. It's an integral part of the engine. This is your main cap. We haven't had it off, but I'm guessing there's a girdle in here because it's at the same center line as the crank. So that'll probably be a whole girdle system in here.
Yeah, the one thing that all new engines share is, older engines from the 90s, you always had like a nice rocker cover, and because now they're just covered in so much stuff.
No, mate, easily fixed. Look, you just
No.
Just do that. Job done. Where's it go? Oh, way down here. Look at that. There you go. Beautiful.
Not quite the same thing.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff on it, but once you start pulling it apart, it makes sense.
So it's just direct injection?
Yeah, direct injection. You probably get a shot in the ports if you want. Just make sure the flies don't get in, right?
A decent size on a little engine.
It's a big port. I mean, 1.63 banger. Is that? God, I don't want to do the maths in my head in front of everybody. It's over, obviously it's over 500.
Yeah.
So 530, 533? Is that how the maths works?
Around that.
So, it's going to have a decent sized port, and it's made to make power. I mean, you can see, look at those valves, a nice little stem on them. We're not going to strip the motor down from here, but there's plenty of people who are, obviously.
Yeah.
Exhaust ports are reasonably carboned up for the amount of Ks it's done. Yeah, they're pretty black. Yeah, so look, motor's out. We'll be, obviously Gearbox is off. Clutch and flywheel data is important for us. So our customers want to get the 3D scan.
So coming back to, we never really touched on why you guys pull these cars apart.
It's just fun. No, so the AIC helps companies develop products effectively. So we mainly service companies as opposed to individuals. So we'll develop a whole lot of 3D scan data and measurements, damper plots, spring rates, stuff like that. And anybody who wants to develop parts of this car who may not have access to one or want to strip it down, we can help with that.
Yeah.
So it gives them a good head start. It gives them the ability to do a lot of development without actually having to own a car.
Own a car, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So moving over here, I haven't seen one of these turbochargers. A lot of new cars, it's hard to see the turbo on the car.
Well, this one, very hard to get to on the car, which is why the engine's out. Well, one of the reasons. Integrated exhaust manifold with the turbine housing. So if you want to do a turbo upgrade, I guess you could, I'm not sure if anyone's doing it, but I guess you could probably do the front half. But there's a lot of lines here. You've got to make a decision on whether you're going to run the same family of core and position at the same spot, but they're all the feeds are hard lines.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're nice lines, aren't they?
Look, it's easier to get off the block. It's, a few minutes just to get it off the block and get on the bench, right? So yeah, it's a nice thing. Yeah, it's cute, but there are people doing upgrades. I'm guessing they're doing an exhaust manifold as well.
And you're going to somehow get this car back together, Luke?
Oh, yeah, it'll get back together. Don't worry about that. Absolutely. Look, putting bolts in a bucket doesn't work if you're doing a big job. If you're just doing an exhaust manifold, yeah, it kind of works. But if you disassemble something to this level, there's no way you're getting it back together without lots and lots and lots of photos and information that you stored. So it goes back together perfectly. If you've got the ability to take the time with every clip, every feature, like the wiring harness, it all comes out. I think we've got about 800 photos to get to this point, and we basically just step back through it.
That's probably the most common part people have upgraded so far, isn't it? The
intake. There's a few of these out there, but classic, kind of first upgrade is intake, airbox, sounds good, gives a little bit of power. Easy to do, easy to access, don't have to pull an engine out.
But here in Australia, where we actually make power, unlike in Europe, There will be people just giving this the full send on E85.
Hopefully.
Before too long.
I mean, that's a new era for us now these days, isn't it? It's mechanical injection. It's just a whole different kettle of fish. The parts aren't as readily available as the old port injection. You can get E85 injectors, you can bung them in, adapters, job done. You know, we see people now starting to play with mechanical, I mean, do it for a while, but direct injection motors, you know, E85 conversion.
They end up adding like a port system to it.
And, you know, there's people out there who've done it in the States, and then they've you know, ruined the injectors if you don't run them, and there's just learnings that are taking place. But E85 and this would be awesome.
Let's have a look at the clutch.
Yeah, so dual mass. So anyone who hasn't seen a dual mass, this is brand new, and this is what a dual mass does.
So yeah, just explain that, because one of my cars has a dual mass clutch in it, and it's quite expensive to replace.
Yeah, they cost a lot. There's a number of thousands of dollars in it. Effectively, they're quite heavy, but they really help with driveline harmonics and just the feel of the car. But you do get that slow rev. I mean, it's just flywheel mass, right? But that's the sort of play you have in it. So they're all kind of like that. This is a bit different. It's quite free play, and then it kind of hits a reasonably hard stop, which is quite unusual. And then obviously, so you end up with a solid center clutch, pretty much. Although
they've got a really nice clutch pedal. The feel on them.
Yeah.
Really
I mean, they've done a very good job with it. So this is a Look LUK brand, Look, whatever you want to call it. Pretty common for dual mass flywheels. I think they do a lot of the Euros and stuff. Yeah, so you know, there's some other companies like Exeter and that do it as well. So, but yeah, like it's got some bluing on there. I mean, it is a four-wheel drive. We haven't exactly been following what most people consider the 1,000-kilometre running procedure because.
Hey, if you get on a Yaris Facebook group, do not even rev this above idle.
It's just got to idle for 1,000 k's.
1,000 k's.
You've got to find a hill, hit it on idle, and just roll the whole way down. So, no, look, we haven't been abused it, but it's full drive, and you know, it does work the clutch for sure. So this is engine timing. So it sits behind the flywheel. It goes on before the flywheel. So that's your trigger wheel. That sits back. When you put the flywheel on, she'll sit on there first like that. And then the sensor sticks out the back of the block. Yeah, so this is the front end with the everything out, pretty much. Steering rack still in. Cute steering rack, very nice steering rack. So it's got all the electric assistances in the car, which is the way it really should be done. So there's nothing down here. I don't know if this is the same as the normal Yaris, because, you know, it's basically a Yaris, isn't it?
Yeah. Why would you buy one?
But
the Yaris badge on it.
But it's a beautiful little rack. It's tiny, it's compact, it feels great, obviously.
I'm saying you like small racks.
Hey, look, there's something for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but look, the idea of ripping this down is that we can scan this. So this is all as it sits. There's a couple of floppy hoses here and, you know, shift linkages and that, but we'll push them out of the way. We'll scan this. There's heat shields that we've taken off. So the heat shields will go back on. I have no idea where that's going to sit again. I'll have to look at my photos. It sits exactly like that. And then there's another one. So we'll scan it without the heat shield. We'll scan it with the heat shield. And then in CAD, you'll see all that. And it gives you the space you can play with. Like if you took this off, right?
Yeah.
If you said, oh, I'm just going to do a bit of a ghetto exhaust manifold and turbo, and that's in your way.
Yeah.
You're going to cook everything.
Yes.
You know, your clutch ain't going to work. You know, you're going to melt these. It'll just destroy it. So this is, from my opinion, it's essential when the OEMs do this. Also, it weighs nothing. So there's no point ever deleting it. If you have to modify it, you can, and you'll see that in our CAD. So there is an air gap at the back. You could probably sacrifice a bit of the air gap if you wanted to sort of, but yeah, that sort of information is pretty key. And you know how much space you have to play with, so it's not pushed up against it, or, you know, it's easy to do an install without taking the motor out and accidentally push it up so the whole thing's sandwiched against the line. You get vibration issues, you fatigue the lines, you cook it because it's contact. So it came apart pretty nice. There is some really nice stuff in there. There's some spots where it's, you know, easy to see some upgrades, and we're helping customers go through that now. So that's the engine wiring harness. It all unclips. Everything works because it's brand new, so none of the clips break. I mean, it even slides out of the fuse box easy. So there's obviously your ECU connector, but even the main power feeds they clip in as a corner of the fuse box. So it just drops in. So it was amazing how easy it is. There's no unpinning or anything. It all just came out with no tools apart from, you know, bolts that hold earth and stuff and hold the harness in. I mean, look, it's nice working on a brand new car. Nothing cracks, nothing's broken. It all
Nothing's
bends.
dirty.
Yeah, well, not very dirty, apart from the brake dust.
It is a common complaint I've heard, including ours, and probably yours, that the brake dust is pretty bad.
Yeah, look, you can only assume that it's a trade-off for the noise, the feel, you know, making it feel like a nice car on the road, because they're massive brakes. So, look, at the end of the day, that's the cost of having really amazing brakes, I guess.
Yep. I think they refer to this version online as the POV spec.
Yeah, it's the POV spec, but hey, 39 grand, who's complaining?
I know, but some people get highly offended. Don't call my car a POV spec.
Yeah, well, now that the rallies are out, there's people comparing, you know, lap times and stuff between the two, and the diffs definitely make a difference, but it seems to be mostly tyres. You know, like any car, tyres make or break it. So
tyres make or break. I can't imagine though on the road, the price of the going to the rally.
Well, you're not comparing 39 to 55 anymore. You're comparing like 50 to, you know, like the price gap is a lot smaller now. So everyone's kind of focusing on 39 grand, which is where we managed to get ours as well. But those days are gone, you know, that's not what it is anymore. But so this is the gearbox off the front. You've got, you know, the main sort of front wheel drive style gearbox here. Diff sits in here. And then this is the transfer case. So effectively your crown wheel runs through there. And then you've just got a in the drive system that runs out to the right-hand side front drive shaft. There's basically a bevel gear system that'll run back here. It could be, I think it's just a bevel gear. Haven't actually had that off, but then it just comes out to the tail shaft here.
And you mentioned earlier that you had a bit of trouble getting the shafts out?
Yeah, that's probably for anyone who's going to embark on doing diffs. First recommendation would be rears are probably going to give you more impact, and they're a bit easier to work with at the back there. The actual rear suspension is reasonably difficult to get out. We've got the side out over here if you want to have a look. This is all out for scanning and measurement, so we'll be measuring damping forces, measuring spring rates, scanning all the arms and pulling bushes out, so people who want to do bush upgrades. As we mentioned in our first video, cue flashback by Luke, the video expert. One of these is a spherical. So you can see that on there with the bush, that lower one is a spherical to give it that nice feel. There's two there. So those ones aren't bushes, so I don't think they'd commonly be upgraded, but you know, your upper is a rubber. Yeah, the rest are rubber, so there's people who'll be doing bush kits for these to replace the vulcanized rubber with something else, so whether they're spherical or poly. But yeah, it's a bit difficult to get out. I mean, the spring, unlike most cars, the spring, if you undo the damper, it's still quite hard to get the spring to not be captive. So there's a bit of load on all the time. So I haven't actually looked at the manual yet, but it probably tells you to use a Toyota special tool spring compressor to get a little bit out of it, to get it out. So, but we'll figure that out. But look, it's all nice gear. It's a little semi-trailing arm thing.
And unlike some people who I've seen paint Brembo on their calipers, these are not Brembo.
These are Advix, yeah.
We can confirm that now.
Yeah. Well, they got Advix written on them, unless that's a Brembo sub-brand, which I'm not aware of. Let me check that before you put it in the video. But yeah, nice brakes, very nice brakes. Full motorsport style brakes. We looked at this before. We took the pads out on the last video, but slide in from the top. Brake changes are just an absolute breeze. You know, you just take the pins out the top, slide them out, put them in. None of this caliper off, swinging rubbish. It's beautiful.
Yeah, but until you drive one, you don't appreciate the brakes on this car are phenomenal.
They're huge
for a $40,000. Well, we paid $40,000.
Yeah,
for those brakes.
But they're still for the class of the car, the size of the car, the weight of the car. They're designed to be a performance brake. They're unreal. So, really happy with Toyota putting out something like this. Hopefully, it spurs other manufacturers on to give people like us who enjoy a performance car a little bit of enjoyment. So, good class of car. People will be hacking this one, hopefully. It's amazing how much power there is in OEM ECUs now. Just getting into them is a difficulty. So obviously Denso unit, being a Toyota.
You said this was a little bit hard to pop out, Luke.
Yeah, front left drive shaft, it's pretty standard like everything else. You undo the hub nut and pull it out through the hub here. One thing that we did find that doesn't seem to act like most other cars is it's quite hard to get the stake off the nut, first of all. So the stake on there. But then when we undid it, it absolutely stripped the axle. So that's a bin job. Put a lot of effort into the next one that we did, and it's still not great. So the manual doesn't say use a special tool, but we spent a lot of time trying, that one's usable, but it's still got some galling on there, so we're going to have to spend a bit of time tidying up. But one thing to be careful of, anyone who is going to do a rear diff or a front diff or take out a half shaft, I don't really know what the answer is. I made a tool to knock that out as best as possible, but it's just not nice. It's like they've got too much meat on the end of the nut here. It's too thick. I don't know what they expect to do in the dealership, but My gut feel is they're going to see a few people coming back saying it's all stripped.
So you're saying 4 ugga-duggers instead of 3?
Oh man, well, we've got some big ugga-duggers and it'll destroy it. Anyway, look, it's just
something to be
in terms
mindful,
of general procedure for taking these off. Like most people, you wouldn't even take it off. You just send it and let it pop itself over and job done. But there's something about this thread and this nut. It drops a bit of junk in there and it just destroys the thread. So that's a bit disappointing. I don't know what Toyota's view on that is because we've done what they said in the manual. We got the heat stake up and it just bites it. So we'll find out on that one. But that's just annoying, man, to be honest. If I was going to be doing a diff and it was my car, I'd be pretty gutted that I'd have to buy an axle or an end.
Yeah.
So front arms, pressed steel. There's going to be a lot of people, I think, making some new ones of those if there's not already out there. You've got a big vulcanized rubber in here. Common upgrades will be to put a spherical or something in that, something really nice for a track car. Another rubber bush at the front there. Yeah, McPherson strut setup over here.
Yeah, there's already a few.
Yeah, absolutely.
A few of these on the market. I'll give a blatant plug to Shockworks because we'll be fitting theirs to our Yaris.
We work with Shockworks too. On this project, actually. Yeah. We helped them out on their project. They went to a lot of effort. We did some 3D scanning for them in the suspension development. So, yeah, good stuff they do up there. So.
Yeah. Tiny bonnet. It's already aluminium.
Yeah.
Doesn't weigh much.
We picked it up and I looked at it and went, geez, you're not going to get much gains out of that if you go to carbon. But yeah. I think it's 6.5 kilos. And there's a chap out there who's making a carbon one who's down to like 2.5. So there's a fair few kilos in it. Looks pretty badass too, don't forget.
Yeah, look, it all depends on what you're doing with the car, doesn't it?
Plenty of underbody NVH padding as well. These are wheel arch liners, but there's heaps of NVH work under the car, partly for aero. So, smooth underbody through there, so there's a heap of that. More heat shielding, factory exhaust, factory cat.
Hey, what do we got here? So you got this jigsaw puzzle back together?
Yeah, kinda. I think he goes up, he goes over the back of that's right, goes over the back of the exhaust. And then that fella sits in there, and then that goes into the airbox. Just missing a connection from the outlet of the inner core to the manifold. Look at the dump out of the turbo. It's pretty meaty for 1.6.
Geez, that's not bad, is it?
Yeah, it's like a 4-inch.
Giving it the Thomastown high flow, or what?
Just get the... Yeah, look, it's a nice system. It's easy to get to.
Yeah.
Reasonably easy to get to. The exhaust is nice. I mean, I know there's lots of exhaust out there. I mean, it's something that people are going to do, but...
Yeah, but for a factory system, it's not bad, is it?
That kind of describes the car, right? Almost everything on it is, for factory, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
There's no doubt we're going to make it go faster. We're never going to leave it alone. We are the aftermarket, right?
Yeah, you can see a lot of people that obviously probably just remove that rear muffler section, and the rest of the exhaust is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we measured it last time. The front section was 2 3/4 inch. Oh no, you don't like talking like that, do you?
No, this is Australia. E85, big power, metric. Divide everything by 10. I don't exactly know what this is. I think it's the mechanical pump driven off the camshaft, potentially. But it looks like, it's a big cast iron lump, and it looks like a lifting point. But factory manual says to lift from there and here. And we've got lifting lugs for that.
Okay. It does though, doesn't it?
It looks a lot like a lifting point, but if you look at it, it kind of, like I'm not saying it's anchored to the plastic cam cover, but you're talking to maybe even M6 bolts holding that in.
It seems to be a pretty, sizable mount though, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the bolts that go in, we'd be lucky to be M6, there's 2 of them. So if you lift it off that, you've got to put the load through those 2. So I reckon you might be in a world of hurt. So that's a trap for young players, because when I looked at it, I'm like, that's the point, right? It's cast iron. Like, why would you not? But no, here and here, some straight lifting eyes.
So when do you plan on putting this back together?
About 3 months ago. We've got a lot on, but we're going to start scanning this block. I mean, the block's been scanned externally with the turbo on it. We're going to scan the bare block now. And then as soon as we've got all the scan data, we can start throwing it back together.
Yeah.
Because we want to drive it again.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Well, we need an axle first.
So why would you want to drive a Yaris, really? Anyway, look, I wish you luck in putting this thing back together, but just wanted to say thanks for showing us around your Yaris in bits.
Not a problem. Thanks, mate. Thanks for coming.